Have you ever stopped to think about what it really takes to win this escalating AI race? I mean, what are the absolute must-haves? We're diving into a huge strategic move by Meta today that kind of gives us an answer. We're talking about Meta putting down, get this, $14.3 billion for scale AI. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the cash. It's about pulling the startup's leader, Alexandr Wang, right into Meta's biggest AI ambitions.
Yeah, and what's really telling here, I think, is how Meta is signaling something important. It's not just about having the most computers. They're saying, look, the real edge comes from top quality data, proprietary data, and the sheer talent to actually use it effectively. That's what matters in this race for AGI, for the superintelligence everyone's talking about. It feels like a deliberate shift in focus.
Okay, so with this massive investment, this big strategic play, what's our mission today? We want to really unpack what this means for Meta, obviously, but also for where AI is heading and, for you, trying to keep up with all this. We'll get into Meta's specific goals, their game plan, why Scale AI's data labeling is so darn important, and yeah, the sort of talent acquisition of Alexandr Wang. So let's start at the beginning. What was driving Meta to do this in the first place?
Well, the big one, the main goal, seems to be speeding up their work on superintelligence and AGI. They've said they want to build AI systems that are actually smarter than humans for this new superintelligence lab they're setting up. But when they say superintelligence surpassing human intelligence, are we talking like conscious machines out of sci-fi?
Yeah.
Or is it more grounded?
That's a really good question. And look, the ultimate vision might sound like sci-fi, sure. But practically speaking, right now for Meta, it's probably more about building AI that can solve problems we humans just can't crack. Think discovering new drugs super fast, or designing materials with totally new properties, things like that. And to do that, you need incredibly sophisticated models. Which brings us neatly to their next objective. They need to really strengthen their leadership in AI data. This investment guarantees them ongoing, and crucially, priority access to Scale AI's top-notch data labeling. That labeling is basically the fuel needed to train the kind of advanced AI Meta wants to build.
Right, and it's not only the data itself, but the smarts behind using it, isn't it? So another core goal is getting key AI talent. You mentioned Alexandr Wang. Meta's clearly aiming to bring him, one of the biggest names in AI, on board to lead some really critical stuff, focusing so much on one person, not just the company. What does that tell us about how much they value, individual expertise right now?
Well, it says a lot. It really highlights how rare truly visionary leaders are in this cutting edge of AI. Wang isn't just a tech guy. He's shown he can lead and scale up these incredibly complex data operations. He's got the track record. And if you zoom out, look at the competition. The bigger picture objective here is obviously to compete head-on in the AI arena. This move helps Meta try and close a gap with, say, OpenAI or Google DeepMind. It's meant to establish Meta as a serious contender for that next generation of AI, a very clear signal they're moving beyond just social media.
Okay, so those are the big objectives. Now, how do they actually plan to achieve them? What are the strategic goals? One is integrating Scale AI's expertise. How does that work? How do they actually take Scale's know-how and sort of absorb it to boost their own data processes?
Well, it's definitely more than just buying a service contract. The idea is to embed Scale AI's methods, maybe some of their tools, their whole philosophy on data curation, directly into Meta's own AI development workflows. So the data isn't just labeled, it's shaped specifically for Meta's needs as their models get more complex. And once you've got that kind of data pipeline secured, the next logical step, especially with Wang involved, is setting up this dedicated superintelligence laboratory. Think of it less as just another team and more like a focused brain trust. New infrastructure, new approaches aimed at pushing beyond what's currently possible in AI R&D.
And with that lab setup and the expertise integrated, the focus shifts to building the actual models, right? Powerful foundational models. Using Wang's data insights and Scale's capabilities to train better, more versatile LLMs and other core AI systems. This is like building the engine for everything else. Does Wang's background suggest what kind of models they might prioritize?
It definitely suggests a focus on models that are not just big, but also incredibly accurate and flexible. Models that can handle really complex, mixed types of data. Think text, images, video, sensor data all together. And there's another strategic angle here, creating strategic alliances. Wang has connections, right, in the industry, maybe even with government folks. Meta likely hopes he can help build collaborations and, importantly, give Meta a stronger voice in those crucial AI regulation discussions that are heating up. It's partly tech, partly policy and influence. They want a seat at that table.
Okay, so we see the vision, the objectives, the goals, but how does this actually play out? What are the nuts and bolts here? Let's really unpack the strategy, starting with the absolute foundation, the data, and Scale AI's role. Everyone seems to agree Scale AI is the leader in data labeling, the undisputed leader even.
Yeah, they really are. But it's not just that they label data. What makes them sort of indispensable, especially for Meta's ambitions, it's their knack for handling really tricky multimodal data from different sources and doing it accurately at massive scale. Think about the level of detail needed for advanced robotics or for AI that can genuinely create novel content, not just recognize pictures. It's about precision, nuance, adaptability. That's the kind of high-quality data these super hungry AI models need to thrive. You could say it's like gourmet fuel for a high-performance engine. You can't run a Ferrari on cheap gas and expect top speed.
Exactly. And that dependence, especially for the super intelligence goal, makes Scale AI absolutely vital. So this investment locks in that stream of high-quality data, that expertise, right into Meta's engine room. It's a potentially huge advantage.
And then there's the other side of the deal, Alexandr Wang, the talent acquisition. While technically the money goes to Scale AI, the company, you hear everyone saying Wang himself is the real prize here for Meta. He's seen as this AI prodigy, a visionary, brings deep tech knowledge, sure, but also proven leadership, and he's got a network. This is a rare combo.
And his job title is superintelligence chief. That sounds significant. What does a superintelligence chief actually do day to day? Is it different from being head of AI? And we also heard a small team from Scale AI might be joining him at Meta.
Well, the title itself suggests a very singular focus, right? It points directly at achieving that smarter-than-human goal Meta's set out. It's probably less about tweaking current products and more about aiming for those fundamental game-changing breakthroughs. And yes, bringing a small, trusted team makes sense for hitting the ground running on such a huge initiative, which leads us straight into how this positions Meta in the global AI race. This whole move, it's a loud and clear statement. You've got OpenAI, backed by Microsoft and Google DeepMind. They've arguably been leading the AGI charge. Meta, under Zuckerberg, is basically saying we're not sitting back anymore.
Right. They're pouring resources and money, talent to accelerate their own R&D. The goal seems to be becoming a leader, maybe the leader, in whatever comes next in AI. But realistically, is this $14 billion investment enough to truly close the gap? I mean, OpenAI and Google have huge head starts, different strengths like Google's data or OpenAI's Microsoft partnership. Is it a gap closer or more like laying groundwork for the long haul?
I think it's definitely a long-term play, but a very powerful one. What Meta seems to understand, and what this move shows, is that leadership might not just come down to who has the most computing power. It might hinge more on who has the best, most refined data and the absolute sharpest minds to leverage it. So maybe it's less about catching up feature by feature right now and more about building a fundamentally stronger launchpad for whatever comes next.
Okay, it's a bold strategy, no doubt, but it's not without its challenges, right? What hurdles does Meta face? Just the sheer scale of trying to build superintelligence. It's kind of mind-boggling. The computing power, the data needed, the specialized talent, it's unprecedented. How does this compare to, say, building the metaverse or their other big projects?
Oh, it's on another level entirely. It's exponentially harder, I'd say. You're not just building a platform. You're trying to replicate or exceed cognition itself. That's uncharted territory. Then there's the integration challenge, always tricky with big acquisitions or partnerships. How do you smoothly blend Scale AI's methods and Wang's leadership style into Meta's massive existing structure, making sure you actually get that synergy you paid for? That's about culture fit, operational harmony, not just tech.
And the moment you talk about superintelligence, the ethics alarms start ringing, right? Huge responsibilities come with building AI this powerful. Safety, fairness, transparency. How does Meta even begin to tackle that, especially when regulations are still trying to figure things out?
It's a massive tightrope walk, absolutely. They'll need to invest heavily, not just in the AI itself, but in safety research, in ethical reviews, maybe external audits. They need to be proactive in engaging with the public and policymakers to build trust, because the scrutiny will be intense, and it needs to be. Plus, just keeping the talent happy. In AI right now, finding and keeping the best people is a constant battle. Even with billions invested, top talent can always be poached.
Yeah, good point. And finally, the competition isn't standing still, is it? The AI field moves incredibly fast, everyone's innovating, so Meta has to keep sprinting just to maintain any edge they gain from this move. How does that constant pressure affect the long-term superintelligence goal? Does it force them into short-term thinking?
That's the balancing act, isn't it? The ultimate goal, superintelligence, needs patient, focused, long-term R&D. But the market demands constant progress, quick wins, staying ahead of the competition now. Juggling those two, the marathon and the sprint, that'll be a core challenge for Wang and his new team at Meta. No easy answers there.
Wow, okay, that was quite the deep dive. This meta investment in Scale AI, bringing Alexandr Wang in, it really feels like a turning point for them. It's definitely a bold, very expensive gamble, showing just how serious Meta is about this whole superintelligence AGI future.
Absolutely. By locking in that top-tier data access and Wang's leadership, Meta's significantly boosted its potential in the AI race.
Yeah.
You'd expect this to speed up their progress on foundational models, on new AI applications. It's going to fundamentally shape their future, no doubt.
So thinking about everything we've discussed, Meta's huge bet, the challenges, the potential, what part of this whole strategy strikes you as the most interesting or maybe the most difficult hurdle for Meta as they push towards this super intelligent horizon? Is it the focus on data and talent, the ethical tightrope, something else? Lots to chew on there.